now call the July 23rd, 2025 regular Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order. This meeting is posted in accordance with Nevada open meeting law. All but one member are present. However, we have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the initial comment period. Public comment during this portion of the meeting must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. Each person has up to 3 minutes to speak on a specific agenda item. The public may call 702-589-9629 to provide comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to come forward? Yay, Robin. Please state your name for the record also, please.
So my name is Robin Baker. First, I have a question. If I comment now, can I comment later also? Perfect. Okay, so I am actually very excited tonight because speaking about an advocate for the historic district is on the agenda. And I just want to clarify that having an advocate aligns with the goals of the Historic Preservation Commission. It's one of the goals, for example, number 7, which is to develop an educational campaign that promotes historic Boulder City and encourages historic preservation. But there's another one, and it's 1.6. It's a goal, and it's to establish a process and criteria for nomination of historic districts led by a neighborhood citizen initiative or grassroots campaign. There's another one that talks about educating the community. But I'm going to go back to 1.6 because I think that that is an initiative that would align perfectly with a advocate for the historic district, because it talks about having either a citizen initiative or a grassroots campaign, which along with several of the other goals, I think is a bright initiative for Boulder City because it informs, it creates energy, and it develops community support for historic preservation. And who better to initiate and support 1.6 than an advocate for the historic district? A call for collaboration between the Historic Preservation Committee members, community members, and representatives from other entities that are involved in the historic preservation of Boulder City. Additionally, a citizen initiative could take timely action in meaningful and actionable ways that we would all be aware of. It would produce tangible benefits for the historic district. In many cities, such as Austin, Texas, the ripple effect of these action plans that assign responsibilities to people, provide understandable details, and inform and document outcomes as proof of the grassroots efforts are powerful, and they have wonderful results. Citing the Preservation Austin 5-year strategy, the plan focuses on informing the community and using their advocacy position to amplify their role as a proactive voice for preservation, to continue to work to develop collaborative relationships that just create momentum within the historic preservation community, create tangible, visible evidence of historic preservation efforts, deliver experiences that teach and inspire, and invest in the future by creating a foundation for that growth. Each of the plans that, each of the plans that are in the Austin, Texas initiative are supported by the Historic Preservation Act, which is something that guides, I know, the directions, your goals that you set for the 5-year period. The Austin 5-year plan details what they believe and why. They detail what they're going to do and how they are going to do it. Their plan on a page is simple, it's concise, and it's meaningful. And even I can understand it to explain it to the neighbors in the alley. So it's a comprehensible and understandable plan. So how would recognizing an advocate for the historic district be? You know, right now at this point, without one, it would be a discussion. It would be a compromise. It would be a collaborative effort amongst, I don't know who. But I don't think that those kinds of things, those unknowns, should stall the process of finding an advocate and figuring out how that person can benefit all of us, the city, the community, and the future generations of Boulder City. So I believe that the historic district, as you're aware, needs an advocate, a person who is willing to learn, a person who's willing to collaborate and be responsive to the needs of the historic district, as not only expressed in Goal 1.6, but all of the goals. Because if you have someone who supports the historic district in Boulder City, you have someone who supports the Historic Preservation Commission and the goals that you set for our community. Thank you.
Are there any comments written in or calling in? No. Okay. Any other comments?
Hello.
Hello. All right. All right, thank you. Seeing that there are no other comments, we will close the initial comment period. Moving on to agenda item number 1. Approval of the minutes of the June 25th, 2025 regular meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. That stands. Next item on the agenda, commission discussion regarding an advocate for the historic district.
Yes, this was requested by the commission last month, and you have in your packet Ms. Baker's public comment regarding this, and so it's an opportunity for the commission to discuss the topic.
Anybody want to start? I just want to say thank you, Robin, for your comments. I agree that there needs to be advocacy for historic preservation. I don't know what that looks like. I personally don't think that that position should be in the city. I believe that position should be outside of the city's control. I believe that that advocate or an advocacy group, organization, nonprofit, their responsibility is to basically track plans and policies that are in place at the state, local, federal level, keeps those entities in check. Therefore, if you have an advocate in the city, I question that degree of advocacy. Because there's also competing issues at least at the local level, working with developers and other codes and regulations that, pardon? Zoning especially. Yeah. So I guess one thing to consider, I understand too within our goals, the historic preservation plan, the goals there, definitely we have a role as a commission to advocate for, and maybe there's a better way of doing that. And so I look to my committee members to help me come up with what does that look like. Do we need to have more than one historic preservation day? Do we need to spend more money on, I don't know, working with schools or students? Should we have regular meetings with local museums, historical societies? Do we need to put more information online? I don't know. Anybody have ideas?
I think part of the question here is whether this should be a top-down approach from us as the commission or more of a grassroots effort. And I think you, Ms. Baker, are on the right track of saying this needs to be a grassroots effort. What is it the community wants? What is it the community expects? And similar to Chair Davenport, I agree. I don't think this should be within the city. I think this should be with outside for many of the same reasons Ms. Davenport listed. It's very, there's several conflicts there, I think, that could come up. And I agree that an advocacy position is definitely needed. It's definitely warranted. There is a groundswell of interest in historic preservation in this community. I would like to see it happen. I think this needs to be from outside. I don't think this should be top-down. That's my thoughts.
So I'm kind of at a loss as to like how to move forward with, how to work with this. And I just think it's something that as we as commissions can work to meet with the community, members of the community, people like yourself and others who are in support of historic preservation, continue to solicit ideas, input, support, tangible support. Like, it's one thing to say, yes, I support historic preservation, but it's like, okay, then what are you going to do about it? It's not just us that does historic preservation. It's individuals. It's groups of people who have that same interest. It's the homeowners, the business owners who have, interest in those properties. So our job is to help them, do the right thing as far as historic preservation. How do we do that? Is there a better way to do that? Perhaps. And we'll just continue to work on that. So.
Chair Davenport, one suggestion is the commission could focus on Historic Preservation Day next year in promoting advocacy, promoting the opportunity for citizens to get involved in something like that.
Good idea.
What does that mean, that we wouldn't consider an advocate for until a year from now? You're saying we should consider advocacy on next Historic Preservation Day. Does that mean we can't consider hiring an advocate until then? I'm not sure I understood your suggestion.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's discussing hiring. What we've heard from commissioners already is that this would not be coming from the city. This would be an outside group. So there wouldn't be the hiring of somebody to do this by the city. But if there's a nonprofit group that wants to promote historic preservation, the commission, to help facilitate that, could utilize Historic Preservation Day as a way to promote it.
Michael, could we get on a future agenda, building off of this for next year's Historic Preservation Day, to maybe build a workshop or roundtable discussion into the day's events that we're able to actively talk and listen to the community about what they want and what they see in a role like this?
As to do that as part of Historic Preservation Day? Or?
I'm just asking, for a future agenda, we normally start talking about Historic Preservation Day late fall.
Right.
If we could just add that as a note so that when we get to those items in the future, we haven't forgotten about it by then.
Yeah, we could include that in the staff report if that's, the commission's direction, and then that can be a talking point when you start planning for it. Yep.
Thank you. You have to wait for public comment, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. I can do that.
Sorry.
Personally, I like the idea of having an advocate, but I would also agree that I don't see why the community couldn't create their own group that is an advocate or a group of people who are looking after making sure that our community understands the necessity of our history being restored and protected. We do have a young history in comparison to many cities, but it's a really unique and special history, and we want to encourage people to take their homes and turn them back into contributing homes. And we want people to be proud of this small little town because it is unique. And so I think it would be a great idea. I think you're on the right track, but I don't know if the city should be the ones responsible for that group.
I like your idea of, excuse me, a workshop perhaps. And you suggested during Historic Preservation Day, but just to remind folks that it's really Historic Preservation Month. And so it could be part of the month's events in case there's a lot going on, Historic Preservation Day. But I do like that idea.
Having it on that day is hopeful because it's part of the schedule and we have to be cognizant of the open meeting law.
So we'll just keep that on the agenda for when we start talking about Historic Preservation Month and Day and look at options on how that might look. I wonder if, would there be a need for some kind of a survey first ahead of time? Or at least questions to give out to the public as far as these are the questions, this is what we're trying to answer as far as what does advocacy look like for Historic Preservation Day. Anyway, those are some ideas.
Based on at least what I've seen in my professional career, it's great to have those questions ahead of time and then put it out. I'm sure that's something we could certainly work with staff on, whether it's through social media or some other organization of soliciting feedback from the community.
Do you think there's a need to specifically target known entities that you would think or hope support historic preservation, like nonprofits that exist here, the Chamber of Commerce, the museums? Would they be part of, do you foresee they could be part of the conversation, either part of the workshop planning?
The community that have an active stake in that.
Mhm.
I mean, I can speak on behalf of the Railroad Museum that we'd certainly be involved with that,
Mhm.
but from a broader standpoint, it doesn't hurt to reach out to those organizations.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you again, Robin, for bringing us up. Next item on the agenda, item number 3. Continued commission discussion regarding creating a new map for the historic district.
So last month, the commission asked staff to reach out to the business community and real estate professionals to inquire if they would be interested in the city creating a map. And the map that was kind of discussed was the Chambers map, which you now have a handout of. This is the map from the mid-2000s. In my conversations with real estate professionals and with our outreach to the business community, they were not interested in a wall map. But what they were interested in is a PDF map that they could hand out to clients. More importantly, that they could email to clients that show the boundaries of the historic district. And so, as reference points, I did attach to the staff report the existing map that we have. I also attached a historic district reference guide that was put together approximately 20 years ago that highlights not only the historic district, but highlights significant properties within the historic district. This is a document that we do have on the website. This is a document that we've shared on Historic Preservation Day, and it's something that's been useful to let people know, the purpose of our historic district and the history of the community. With that, I can answer any questions.
So you're making that guide available to realtors and business individuals?
Yes.
Whether they want it or not.
Well, in talking to real estate professionals, they felt that PDFs would be the easiest that they could utilize in being able to share with their clients.
So this thing you put together here, this is what they would get?
That was put together by city staff and others 20 years ago. That's existing. So yeah, we can absolutely share that with real estate professionals. We can look at the existing map and maybe work with Courtney Mooney in providing some enhancements to it, and then that could be an elevated PDF that we could share with businesses and real estate professionals. It might show the district boundaries and maybe pictures of some significant properties within the district.
Did the realtors ask specifically for anything that would be helpful to them or their clients? Like a map or information, or like, were they specific or?
Well, when I was asking them about, the commission's request regarding the wall maps, their response was that a PDF would be more usable because they could easily distribute that to their clients.
But do their clients ask them, as they're considering purchasing a home in the historic district, do they ask them, oh, is this home historic? What do you know about the house or the property? Where do I get more information? Like, do they have like a checklist, I guess, something like that, that they can give these homeowners either while they're considering purchasing something or considering the purchase of a property? Like, were they specific about anything like that?
They didn't say anything along those lines, but what I did ask them is, do they feel like they are receiving enough information regarding the historic district and the resources? And they said that they were. I think that the workshop was helpful. As you recall, Nikisha, after the workshop, sent out to all the realtor professionals within the community a link to the workshop so that they would have that information. And the realtors felt like that they had what they needed to be able to answer their clients' questions. And of course, I used the opportunity to reinforce with those realtors that if they ever have client questions, we're here as a resource to help them.
Anybody have anything else?
Well, I think that as long as we make sure that they have something where they can engage people and maybe even attract people who want to come and live in a historic district, because there is a lot of people out there who want to live in a historic home and want to restore the home rather than modernize it. So that would be nice to see even more of our homes when they go up for sale and say they're non-contributing, that they become contributing. And so I think that it's important that we try to figure out a way to attract those buyers that want to do that, because then we'd have a pretty phenomenal historic district.
Do you have any ideas on how that would work?
Well, I think this is a little bit on the right track. It gives people history. You know, when I first moved to Boulder City, coming from San Francisco, the first thing I said was, where are all the old buildings? I mean, there's nothing old here. There's the 30s, you know, and as I learned the history of Boulder City, I started to fall in love with the historic homes and the history of Boulder City. It's a great story. And I mean, how many people come to the desert during the Depression in this heat that we have and build the dam and start doing that intense? It's, you know, and I am very fortunate. I actually volunteered at the senior center, and I got to hear the stories firsthand from people who actually lived it. And so it was a pretty good story, and it made me fall in love with the district. And it made, and I think other people would do the same thing if they got to hear the story. If we engaged it, if we pushed it out there, if we showed our pride in it throughout the town on how important our district is. And I think that this is good, that this thing you put together, that was put together a while ago, and just, I don't know, just making sure that that we get out there somehow and attract those people who want to restore the homes.
And you said this is on the city's website, on the Historic Preservation page?
Correct.
Yeah, and it's pretty nice, the history of historic district, or city.
Anybody else? All right, thank you. Item number 4, for possible action, discussion regarding historic preservation grant opportunities.
So this was also a request of the commission at last month's meeting, and so we asked Ms. Mooney to research the availability for grant opportunities, and so that is reflected in the staff report, and staff can answer any questions.
I seem to recall that I asked not only what grant opportunities were available, but what was the city's process for paying for not only Courtney's services, but putting in the budget cycle or adding to the budget cycle, the potential adding to the budget cycle for projects. And
So the city, of course, adopts the budget every May, which begins the fiscal year on July 1. And departments begin working on the next fiscal year's budget beginning in the fall. And so it's a multi-month process that we're working with the finance department and the city manager in putting together budgets. So over the years, as we have identified grant opportunities as it relates to historic preservation, and we're aware of it in advance, we put that into the budget for the next fiscal year. And a perfect example of that is the money that was put together to restore the historic water filtration plant. The city used $300,000 in RDA funding to match the $200,000 state grant, and that constituted the $500,000 that was needed to do that work. So that is part of the process. So once, as we note in the staff report, SHPO sends out the round 3 for opportunities to take advantage of CLG grants. We'll look at the criteria that they establish and see if it matches the goals of the commission and the city council as it relates to historic preservation. And that may be an opportunity to pursue a grant to help pay for those types of projects.
so does the city first try and find a grant? and work within that time period for applying for the grant? And then do they then simultaneously work on budgeting a matching component of that within the city's budget? Or is it the other way around, where maybe the city first, let's say, has a $300,000 project, it's budgeted in the city's budget with the hope that you'll get maybe matching grants for that, or half of that?
It all depends on timing. With the historic water filtration plant, the city had the opportunity, because we knew of the process, to budget in advance. Sometimes with the announcements for grant opportunities, particularly with the CLGs, that happens after the budget's been approved. And so we look for other ways, depending on the dollar amount, to be able to provide that, because these are all reimbursable grants. It's not provided up front. So the city has to front the entire upfront cost and then seek reimbursement.
So what would it take at this time to add, or to add the $39,700 for completing goals 3.1 and 3.2, the estimate that Courtney came up with? And what would be the first fiscal year that we could consider that? Is 26 gone? Because that, or are you still working on developing fiscal year 26's budget?
So our contract with Broadbent is for up to $75,000 each fiscal year. Obviously, a portion of that needs to be set aside to help with review of a certificate of appropriateness applications, because we have Ms. Mooney prepare those reports and submit them to the commission for your review. But the remainder of those funds are available for opportunities like the direction the commission has already provided on the National Register nomination for the old airport hangar. So once she completes that work, there's the opportunity to then revisit with the goals and the commission what next priority with goal 3.1 and 3.2, which we believe can be done together, to have her begin working on that.
So we have to wait until the airport goal is complete before we even add the goal 3.1 and 3.2 to the budget process.
Well, it's all back to resources. So you could certainly ask Ms. Mooney to stop her work on that effort and begin work on these goals, but then that would delay completion of that.
It's not delaying her, it's adding it to whatever the next, so if she was supposed to complete the airport hangar in fiscal year 25 or 6?
We're in 26. So, it'd
Right,
be
so if
within
she
this fiscal
finishes it in 26,
Mhm.
then we think that, 27, we can start a new project. But do we actually have to revisit and vote on it, or can we just, right now, we know in 27, we want this project to move forward? And therefore, we have to start that process in fiscal year 26.
No, what I'm saying is, because we have a budget up to $75,000 each fiscal year, we believe that once she completes the nomination, there is the opportunity for her within this fiscal year to begin work on 3.1, 3.2.
Gotcha, all right. And the only way we can get that paid for is through this contract with Broadbent. It can't be outside of that 75,000.
I guess the question is, who's doing the work if it's not Broadbent? We have a 5-year contract with Broadbent up to $75,000 per year. If we were to use another consultant, we'd have to go out through RFP process. And I think with the commission's objective to timely complete the goals within our historic preservation plan, it's best to work with Broadbent to get that done.
And so Broadbent has stated they cannot take on both of these projects simultaneously, or in close coordination of finalizing one and then moving into the next one.
I think that that is certainly possible, to have them begin working on 3.1 and 3.2 as soon as the work with the National Register is complete.
Got it.
and that can be done within this fiscal year.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. Anybody else? Any questions? All right. Moving on to item number 5, discussion and update on the World War II Heritage Cities signage project.
So we wanted to take an opportunity to discuss with the commission, I'm going to say Nikisha's efforts. She's been working very diligently on this project, not only with working with Ms. Mooney to prepare the nomination application in which, as you recall, every state, only one jurisdiction, or in this case, because it was a joint application, Boulder City and Henderson jointly received the designation for the World War II Heritage Cities for Nevada. And so after the designation, then the question was, how do we recognize that? And so Nikisha applied for a grant, and the grant was awarded to both cities to spend $10,000 on signage. And so what we've done within this report is share with you the work up to this point and the proposed locations for the signage. Part of the grant application was the recognition of our men and women who have served as veterans and the connection to the Veterans Memorial Cemetery in Boulder City. And so we've tied the signage to that. And so you can see with the attachments what the signs would look like and with their proposed locations. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Comments or questions about the sign locations or this? I was curious if this very long, I don't know if this is I don't know what this is, Paths of Perseverance, honoring World War II history from Henderson to Boulder City. Will that be on the sign?
No, that was just the project name. So the signage will just be the specific logo for the Heritage Cities. And then, yeah, that's just the name of the project.
Gotcha, okay. It's a lot of words to put on a sign.
Yeah, and then I would just refer the commission to the attachment which shows the logo that would be utilized.
So is the sign just the logo and doesn't have, like you gave examples of, welcome to blah, 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 America's #1 World War II city, or, you know, there was some extra stuff.
Yeah, that's what just other communities have done. I think that the logo itself really is what conveys our recognition as an American Heritage City, and the way this would be laid out along Boulder City Parkway and Veterans Memorial, leading to the Southern Nevada Veterans Cemetery, I think provides that connection.
I did have a question about, you have a timeline, and it's for November 2025, and the goal is that staff will develop online educational webpage with assistance from broadband as needed. I was curious if that was just Boulder City, or was that a combination shared website or educational outreach, or I guess maybe.
Yeah, so a part of the grant proposal was that we would just develop a specific web page on our existing website that would highlight the history of why we are an American World War II Heritage City. And then I would just pull in Ms. Mooney as needed if there's any photos and additional information that I don't already have to include on the website. But that was just going to be specific to Boulder City.
Okay, so Henderson isn't pursuing their own version, or we're not sharing a single web page?
Yeah, not at this time. They're still trying to kind of figure out how they want to kind of commemorate this within their jurisdiction. So.
Okay. Can I suggest that you work with the commission on what that webpage will include, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Gotcha. And are you by chance working with the museum or anybody else locally on this educational outreach, or have you gotten to that point yet?
Oh, no, I just haven't gotten to that point yet, but that's definitely something that I can, as I move on forward with that, I would definitely be pulling them in for photos and different information for the website.
Okay, thank you. Does the Railroad Museum have World War II history that they plan to interpret?
The railroad played a significant role. Obviously, it's bringing a lot of the materials. As far as archival material, you don't see a lot of that because the government didn't want those things photographed for security reasons. So there's not a lot of documentation. We do have an Army locomotive, but it's Korea era.
Anybody else have any comments?
The hangar, isn't that tied to World War II as well?
Yes, it was built during World War II. Of course, the World War II heritage recognition is really focused on civilians' contributions to the war effort.
Okay.
And so that is what we're highlighting, but certainly we will talk about the overall contributions, including the base that was located here, as well as the hangar.
Anybody else? Okay.
Good job, Nikisha.
Yeah, thank you so much for spearheading this. All right. Agenda item number 6, update on implementation of the commission's goals and priorities.
So as we do every month, this is the monthly report, and we note items in bold as any new additions to the goals. And in response to commission direction, there's further clarification regarding goals 3.1 and 3.2 that you can see within the packet, and we can answer any questions.
Thank you. Agenda item number 7, discussion update on the status of properties in the historic district or other potentially eligible properties.
Also a monthly report to the commission, and so you will note the attachment which shows various projects and activities, and we similarly show in bold any new information and can answer any questions.
Has there been any more movement on the proposed North Escalante Park monument?
No, just the initial inquiry.
Good. All right. What's the next item on the agenda? All right, agenda item number 8, for possible action, commission discussion regarding potential agenda items for upcoming Historic Preservation Commission meetings.
I just want to go back to my earlier comment about probably better to start sooner on Historic Preservation Day rather than waiting, so maybe start those discussions coming up next meeting or meeting thereafter.
Since it sounds like we have a couple of commissioners that will be gone at the next meeting, I would suggest September.
That's fine, thank you.
Will there be Is that the month that new members will be inducted, or is that the following month, September? Because some of us, our last meeting is August, or is this July? I don't remember.
Unfortunately, I don't have the
Okay.
schedule in front of me. What we can do is make sure that the discussion begins once that's occurred, if
Okay.
that's the commission's preference.
Okay, that's fine. Anything else to add to the agenda next month?
May I ask about this one picture you have where it says Boulder City and it has dam on it? It looks like a rendering, the latest rendering for a monument. Is that
You-
something that we're doing?
So this is the point for asking for new agenda items.
Oh, we already passed that. Okay, sorry.
And certainly, we will continue to report out if there's any additional information on that request.
So we are now at the final comment period for the evening. Each person has up to 3 minutes to speak on any topic. Public may call 702-589-9629 to provide comment. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak,
I will use the manual timer since I can't get the clock to work, so.
thank you. I don't have my phone.
So once again, I'm Robin Baker. I know that you are all more knowledgeable than I, and it's a little frustrating when I'm sitting in the audience and I hear CLG grants. I don't know what that is, and I think it takes 3 seconds to actually say whatever CLG is. And so I wish that during the commission meetings, the public would be considered, that we are not as knowledgeable in the loop as you are, which brings me to my second frustration, is that when you're talking about Historic Preservation Day, it shouldn't be a day or a month, at least in Boulder City, and I'll tell you why. Because I recently received an email from the city that included the observation that there seems to be a misconception in the community that all of Boulder City or all of the original town site falls within the historic district. So if that's a belief of the city, what else is a misunderstanding or a misconception about the lack of awareness of where the historic district is? Which brings me to my third frustration, the map. I love the map that was presented today. My only request would be the historic district is designated. But it was fun, it was colorful, it was engaging. So I'm all for that. But the maps on the district, such as what you presented last month, Michael, don't have the street names on them. And because I'm new to the community, I've only been here 6 years, I don't fully understand what the boundaries of the historic district are when you're talking about them. I need a visual, and when I have a visual that doesn't have enough information on it, that is extremely frustrating. So the fourth thing that's a little frustrating for me is, where is there a list of the contributing houses? Because as Marcella was speaking earlier, when someone comes to Boulder City and they want to see what's contributing in the historic district, how do they know? I requested a list of the contributing houses, and I know I'll be directed to read something that was on the website or something that was submitted in 2020. But what about people who just want to go look at the houses? Why isn't there a list of contributing houses? And who maintains that list? How is it updated? How are homeowners encouraged? I am very opposed to doing historic preservation 1 month, 1 day. I think that with the lack of understanding in Boulder City, or the lack of faith in the process of historic preservation in Boulder City that we need, which is, I do have intentions of developing some kind of advocacy program, and I am going to be contacting you one at a time, because I wouldn't want to not abide by any rules. But people need contact. They need eye-to-eye contact. They need time. They need energy to actually believe, and I think that's my 3 minutes. Is that right, Nikisha? Okay, thank you, sweet.
Thanks, Robin.
But I do hope there's a map with all of the street names on it and the designation of the historic district, and it's colorful and it's cute.
Get right on it. All right, thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Did I? Oh, I should have closed it out. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Seeing that there's no one else in the audience or no public comments, we close final comment period. This meeting is adjourned. Sorry about that. Just wanna. That's funny.